20-year-old receptionist Adriana Arias is suing former friend, 22-year-old chef Nicholas Arrieta, for stealing money from her bank account.
Order. All rise. Now, this is case number 189 on the calendar in the matter of Arias versus Arrieta. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. You okay? Mm-hmm. Okay. Have seats, please.
Miss Arias, for some reason only known to you and those nearest and dearest to you and some being up there, you were dumb enough to give the defendant your ATM card and your PIN number. He is neither related to you by blood or marriage, correct?
Correct.
And it is your claim that without your permission, because you gave it to him for one thing, because he needed gas for his car and he didn't have any money, and without your knowledge and permission, he emptied out your bank account and just kept using your card, and you want your money back.
Yes.
Mr. Arrieta says that he did in fact take money out of your ATM, using your ATM card, and he took money out of your bank account, and he took it out to pay for a variety of things, and he did it with your permission, because you gave him the card and said, whatever you need, just don't shake your head, please, whatever you need, here's my card, and you can take it out. That's your position, is that right, Mr. Arrieta?
Yes, it is.
And how much money did you in fact take out of her ATM?
I believe it was around $750 and up, could have been.
700, did you understand what he said after $750?
And up it could have been.
And up it could have been. Up it could have been. Is that some sort of language that I'm not aware of?
Could have been more.
It could have been more. That I do understand.
Okay.
How much money did he withdraw from your bank account?
A total of $1,103. 104, I'm sorry. With 33 cents.
$1,104.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Arrieta, he's not exactly sure. He said it could have been $750 and up from there.
Yeah. Well, he pulled out a bunch of receipts. He should know.
First, I'd like you to tell me how you know him.
We've been friends for about 6 years now. We went to high school together since freshman year. We've never had problems, always got along just fine. There's times where we don't see each other, times we do run into each other.
I don't need a whole story.
Yeah.
That's how you've been friends.
Yeah, we've been friends.
Do you work?
Yes, I do.
What kind of work do you do?
I'm a receptionist at a hospital.
How long have you been employed as a receptionist at a hospital?
For about 10 months now.
And you have a responsible job?
Yeah.
You go to work every day?
Sure.
And you take your paycheck and you pay your bills?
Yes.
Put your money in your account? You went to the bank and opened up a checking account? Is that right?
Yes.
And they gave you a secret PIN number? And they were very careful when they gave you a secret PIN number. You know, they made you go like this.
Yeah.
You know, so that the lady who was, or man who was giving you the PIN number, they couldn't see what you were doing?
Yeah.
Now tell me why you were dumb enough to give Mr. Arrieta your ATM card and your PIN number?
Basically,
Not basically. Tell me exactly.
The reason why.
Yes.
The reason why is because he had called saying that, you know, he and my sister here had a previous relationship where she had a kid out of the relationship and a paternity test was never done. Now, he won a settlement. He was in an accident a while ago. He won a settlement and he called on the 19th saying, I have the money now. I want to pay for this, you know, the blood test to get done, the paternity test. So when he called, he didn't have the money. He had to go pick it up at his lawyer's office. And when he called me, it's because he needed the money to put gas in his car to get there, which was out of town.
So he came over to your house?
No, I was at work. But he came to my house because he had previously tried to borrow my sister's credit card.
And did you tell him when you wanted him to return the car?
I told him to return it that same evening when I got out of work, which he agreed because he was going to come by.
All right, Mr. Arrieta, now I'd like to hear your version of the events, sir.
Well, I've known the defendant
I want you to.
I've known the defendant for several years, as she explained. I did have relations with her sister. It wasn't
I'm not interested about her sister and your relations with her sister.
The day that I asked for the card, I went to her sister. Her sister gave me a card which didn't work. It was declined. And then so...
What did you go to her sister's house for? To get a card for what?
To get a card for... I told her I needed some money, that I had no money for the weekend. So she said, well, I'll give you some money. Because my thinking was because she thinks...
I don't care what you were thinking, sir.
Well, I asked her for some money.
I don't think that you think.
I asked her for some money, and she was willing to give me some money. Her card declined. That's when I called her and I told her.
Called who?
Called Priscilla.
Put your hand down. When did you call her?
I called her. I never had to call her. Priscilla had told me to go straight to her work, that her sister was willing to give me the card.
When you got there, did you see Adriana?
Yes, I did.
And tell me exactly what happened when you saw Adriana.
When I saw her, she smiled at me, gave me a hug. Hey, how you been? I miss you. It's been a long time. Spoke for a little bit about things, and then...
No, tell me what you spoke about.
We spoke about her nephew, which she claims to be my son.
No, what did you say and what did you say?
I said hello. She said hello back. And that was basically...
I want you to think hard.
For the card?
No, think hard. Think hard. You said hi, she said hi, gave you a big hug, and then she said what?
She didn't say nothing. I asked her how her job was going.
And she said?
She said it was going great. She works at the eye doctor.
And then you said?
I came over here to get the card that your sister told me to get, because hers declined. She gave me her card and her PIN number.
Mm-hmm. And then where did you go?
Immediately after that, I went to go get repairs for my truck. Went to get a cell phone.
What, are you an idiot? Are you stupid?
No.
What?
No.
Do you come from a long line of idiots?
No, I didn't.
What?
No.
What kind of work do you do?
Me? I don't work.
Me.
I'm a chef.
Me.
Me?
I know what I do for a living. I know what he does for a living. I want to know what you do for a living. I don't want to know what this idiot does for a living because he can't keep a straight face. I want to know what you do for a living.
I'm a part-time chef.
So that means you work in a restaurant?
I work voluntarily sometimes here and there for
You work
weddings.
voluntarily, so who takes care of you?
I'm sorry?
What word don't you understand, Mr. Arias, that I just said?
Can you repeat the question?
Who takes care of you?
I live with my parents.
How old are you?
22.
What does your father do?
He's a machinist.
And your mother?
She doesn't work. She's a housewife.
And you have brothers and sisters?
Yes, I do.
How old are they?
My brother's 26. My sister's 23.
Is your brother living at home?
No, he's not.
What does it mean? Are you thinking of the answers?
Yeah, because sometimes he tries to...
Try not to think of the answers. Try just to tell the truth.
Yes, he does.
Good. He lives out of the house.
Yes.
And your sister?
She also lives out of the house.
Lives out of the house. She's 23.
Correct. 23.
All right. And is she married?
No.
Is she working?
Yes.
What kind of work does she do?
She works as a receptionist for a doctor.
And how long has she been living out of the house?
6 years.
And your other brother? How long has he been living out of the house?
4 years.
So the only one that can't get their act together is you.
Yes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Why you would want to tie yourself to this idiot for forever by forcing him to have a paternity test, I will never know whether he is the father, whether he's not the father. The guy's a jerk.
And later today,
Where's the phone?
We don't have it anymore. She said that we were not going to get the phone back, that she got to the phone before we did, and that he's dead.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Adriana Arias says former friend Nicholas Arrieta used her ATM card to steal from her account. Nicholas says he had permission to take the money.
Now, you take from your parents. You consider that their responsibility to support you. Is that right?
No, that's not the way I feel.
Well, then why do you continue to take from them?
I don't take from them.
Of course you do.
No.
Do you pay for the electricity in the house?
If I have money, I will pay for it.
How do you have money if you don't work? Is not an answer.
Part-time.
Part-time work.
When I do part-time chef, when I do cooking, sometimes
when
for
was
weddings.
When was the last time you did part-time
2 weeks
work?
ago.
For whom?
For a friend.
Friend's name, telephone number.
George.
George what? And what kind of cooking did you do for George? What is his phone number?
Should I give you the whole food meal, the course of what I cooked?
What kind of work did you do for him? At a
I
restaurant?
cooked. No, I
Where?
cooked. At his home.
Oh, you went to his house?
Yep.
Why you would want him to declare the father of a goldfish, I haven't a clue. I haven't a clue.
My son's 4 now, so it was a long time ago.
Yeah, but why you would want to tie yourself to this idiot for forever by forcing him to have a paternity test, I will never know whether he is the father, whether he's not the father. As far as I'm concerned, you made a mistake. Write it off. Write it off. The guy's a jerk. However, he's a jerk that owes your sister $1,104. Judgment of the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I called him and you know, I'll call you back, I'll call you back. Never called back, so I kind of figured something was up.
It was a gift, so why should I pay her back?
He's basically worthless. He has nothing going for himself, and he brought this upon himself.
24-year-old student Summer Whiteacre is suing her ex-boyfriend, bookseller Seth Wells, for unpaid credit card charges and an unpaid bill for internet service.
Come to order. All rise. This is case number 88 on the calendar in the matter of Whiteacre versus Wells. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Miss Whiteacre, was the defendant a boyfriend of yours who was living in your house?
Yes, he was.
How long did he live in your house?
About 4 months.
And you were living with your parents?
Yes.
And your claim is that he ran up some bills while he was living there.
Correct.
And in addition to the bills, you also have an IOU that he signed.
Correct.
The defendant says, he doesn't talk much about the bills in his answer, but he says he was forced to sign the IOU under duress. So first, let me take a look at the bills, then let me take a look at the IOU. You're going to tell me a little bit about why he came to live with you and what the bills were for, and then I'm going to hear all about the duress.
Everything.
So while I'm looking at this, because I can usually do a couple of things at one time, as long as they're not too hard, can you tell me why he came to live in your house?
He came to live with us 17th of October in 2001. We had been dating when we both lived in Seattle. I had to return home to California, and he had to return to Syracuse. We had been communicating in between then, letters, emails, phone calls, and we both thought that each other was the right one.
You both thought what?
Each other was the right one.
Go ahead.
And, well, we aren't, but...
Go ahead.
Okay, and so he came to live with me, and it was only supposed to have been until about the middle of January. Things had deteriorated so much by then that he moved out the next month.
And while he was there, what kind of bills did he run up?
When he arrived, he had virtually no clothes. I ended up taking him to Mervyn's, and he spent about $150 there on clothing for work.
Well, what did you tell him about that expenditure?
When he came to me and said, would it be all right if I went and got some clothes and used your credit card? I'll take over the payments. And I said, well, I actually owe some money on my credit card, so why don't you just give me the money? And he said, okay.
And he never gave you the money?
He ended up giving me about $150 of what he owed, and that's it, in 2 payments.
All right, well, what else? Because I see a lot of little charges here. $15, $3.57.
He actually paid some of that money.
Well, what didn't he pay?
He paid 2 things virtually when they were put on my credit card. One was his cell phone bill, which was $53, and another one he gave me partial amounts of money, the $80 for cable internet bill, I believe.
What's $103 in interest?
That's how much interest. He's been accruing this interest more or less since October.
I'm going to read something to you. I, Seth Q. Wells, do agree to pay Summer Whiteacre $343.17 in credit card charges, and then you crossed out, I assume you crossed out, I do further agree to pay 6% interest calculated each month until the end of April, when the above debt will be paid in full. Did you cross out the interest part? Take a look.
No, she crossed that out. I did
Okay.
not cross it out.
That is your signature.
Yes, it is.
Then here we go, sir. It's your turn. Talk to me about this duress.
Basically, she was in the process of taking me, she was moving the last of my stuff to my new apartment. And we had been discussing the relationship and the end of the relationship. And it basically got to the point where she was really upset and out of control. Like, literally, I was not...
Explain to me out of control.
Basically, she was crying and yelling at me, saying that it was, you know, I needed to accept my part of the responsibility for the relationship, and her speed was increasing. And
You were in the car?
Yes, I was in the passenger
Yes.
seat, and I literally did not feel safe under the situation. And she has actually been in the same mindset before, and I felt the same feeling of being unsafe with the way she was driving.
He chooses to bring up... Shh. I'm sorry.
And, I mean, I did not feel...
Will you get to the IOU, please?
Yeah, well, she handed it over to me saying, you have to sign this. And this is when she was...
Where was it when she handed it to you?
It was in her hand and she handed it over to me. We were in the car.
Well, she was driving.
Yes.
And she's crying.
Yes.
And she hands this over to you.
She looked over and handed it to me.
Right. Is that when you gave him this, in the car?
Yes, it was in the car.
Uh-huh. Go ahead. So you signed it while she was driving?
Right. I basically felt that if I did not sign it, then it would have escalated, and I didn't know to what point.
Okay, now you sign it.
Yes.
Did she calm down?
Yes, she did.
And were you still holding it?
Yes, I was. Well, after I signed it, I did hand it back.
And she took it back while she was...
While she was driving.
While she was driving?
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And hysterical?
Yes.
Does that sound right to you?
Not really. I was upset. I wanted him to stand up and say, yes, I am responsible for these charges. He chooses to bring up relationship issues in the car.
I'm not interested in relationship issues. I'm talking about fear.
I don't see how he could have been afraid. He is quite a bit larger than I am.
He doesn't have the car behind him.
He could have overpowered me at any time.
I wasn't afraid of you.
No.
I was afraid of driving.
Look, Mr. Wells, you signed the IOU.
Yes.
Pay the lady the money, $343.17. Pretty exact amount. Are these your charges?
Yes.
Then what are we here for?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
At worst, you're paying for your own clothing that I assume you're wearing.
Yes.
She's not getting any pleasure from it. She's not seeing you in it when you're going out for dinner.
And later today,
I've trained hundreds of people at that school. I've never had an incident like this.
That's a pretty nasty email from a businessman.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Summer Whiteacre says ex-boyfriend Seth Wells owes for credit card charges and bills while they lived together. Seth says he was forced to sign a promissory note.
If they're your charges, who cares whether you were forced to sign an IOU under duress?
Part of them that was already paid for.
She gave you credit for what you paid for, sir.
Right, what I paid for is part of that list. It's not the clothing. The clothing, she had said, and I said, you know, it'll be a while before I get, you know, my first paycheck and be able, you know, to pay you back. And she said, don't worry about it, you don't have to. It was the beginning of the relationship, and, you know, when everything is, like, wonderful and happy. And I said, okay. She said, you don't have to, don't worry about it. And I said, are you sure? And she said, yes.
So you're saying to me these are your charges, but it was a gift?
The clothing, yes, was a gift.
Yes.
The rest of it was not, which I did pay the $150.
But there's more charges here than $150, sir.
I'm not exactly sure how it's been increasing every time she talks to me, so I'm not sure what it's always a new amount.
I don't know. All I know is I can't be bothered with the two of you anymore. We're talking about $343.17. At worst, you're paying for your own clothing. That's the worst scenario. Right. Clothing that I assume you're wearing. Is that right? Not today, necessarily. But you're wearing it.
Yes.
She's not getting any pleasure from it. She's not seeing you in it when you're going out for dinner.
No.
So, don't make a big deal of it. Just pay the money, put a period, sayonara, and goodbye. Does that sound right?
Yes.
Judgment for the plaintiff, $343.17. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I broke up because she had cheated on me. She got bitter because I broke up with her, and now suddenly, you know, now you owe me this, now you owe me that.
He's the biggest loser I could have ever found in my entire life, and he can't own up to his mistakes.
Manicurist Lisa Russell is suing her ex-boyfriend, mover Mark Foster, for unpaid bail money and for damage to her car. Mark says it's Lisa's fault he was arrested in the first place.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 7 on the calendar, the matter of Russell versus Foster.
Thank you.
Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Miss Russell, you claim that the defendant owes you for the return of some bail money,
Yes.
that he wrecked your car,
Yes.
and that he burned a hole with a cigarette in your car.
Yes.
Defendant says that the only reason he got a ticket for driving while under the influence of alcohol was because you were too drunk to drive. You were in the car at the time he was stopped. That he did not wreck your car, it was somebody else. And that he has no idea who put a hole with a cigarette in your car. That's your defense.
That's true.
No, that's your defense.
Yes, that's true. That's my defense.
Oh, smart. I like smart.
Yeah, smart's good.
Let's see how he does at the end. Miss Russell, he was your boyfriend?
Yes.
For how long?
About 9 to 10 months.
Starting when?
February 22nd is the day that we met. We went on our first date on the 24th of February.
Okay. And when was the arrest for driving under the influence of alcohol?
April 28th.
Were you with him?
Yes.
What time was it?
God, it was right around when the club was closing, so it could have been any time between midnight and 1 o'clock.
Whose car was it?
My car.
Who had driven there?
I drove there.
Why didn't you drive home?
I had been drinking.
So if you had been drinking, did you ask the defendant to drive your car?
No, I didn't ask him to drive my car. He took the keys, got in the car, and pulled out of the parking spot before I was even inside of the car. He was angry because he thought that he had seen me kissing somebody else inside of the club, which never happened, and so he was adamant about driving us home.
And had you had too much to drink, Mr. Foster?
Yes.
So then why did you get behind the wheel of a car?
She asked me to.
Were you afraid of her?
Was I afraid of her? No.
Would you say on a scale of 1 to 10 you have more fear of her or me?
Probably you.
I would like you, with one hand, to pick up that desk and move it out to the corner. Can you do that?
Is it bolted down? I probably could.
What I'm trying to say, Mr. Foster, is if she asks you to drive home and you've had too much to drink, you say, if you're too drunk, I've had too much to drink, I don't get behind the wheel of a car. So if you got behind the wheel of a car, it's your fault, and if you were arrested for a DUI, that's your fault. Now the only question is, she bailed you out. Tell me how that came about, Miss Russell.
We were about a half mile away from my house when the police officer pulled us over, and there was 2 police officers in the car. So one of them drove my car to my house with me in it. The other officer followed us with Mark in the back of the car. They let me go to the back of the car to talk to him before they took him to jail, and he was upset. He was crying. He wasn't looking forward to spending the weekend in jail, considering that it was a Friday night, and asked me if there was anything I can do. If I could get the money together to bail him out, he would pay me back. So
He never said the word pay you back. He never used the words pay you back, Miss Russell. I'm a little bit older than you are. That's not what's said. What's said is, can you get the money together to get me out? That sounds right.
Mm-hmm.
The pay you back part doesn't sound right.
He did promise to pay me back the bail money.
Go ahead.
So I got the money together, I went down to the jail, and I bailed him out that night.
Let me hear your version of the events, sir.
Well, we got pulled over, and, you know, like she said, the cops drove her car to her house with me in the squad car behind it, and then took me to jail. That Friday night, she had asked me to call her when I got, you know, into the cell or whatever with a phone, and so I did. And she said that she felt bad and that she had some money and that she could come bail me out. And you know, I told her I'd probably be out in the morning, if not Sunday morning. You know, we had an attorney, and he would most likely be able to get me out on OR. However, you know, she insisted on coming down and bailing me out. And basically what I said was, you know, I'm not exactly going to hold on to the bars, you know, when the deputy comes to let me out, you know, not exactly going to refuse to leave.
Okay. How much was the bail?
The bail posted was $7,500. I paid $765 to get him out. Your Honor, I don't have $765 laying around at any given point in time.
Then, Miss Russell, what you shouldn't have done is you shouldn't have taken your car, driven your car to the club, had enough drinks so that you couldn't drive yourself home, and then, since you couldn't drive yourself home, got into a car with him when you knew he was drinking and allowed him to drive your car home. That's what you should not have done. He should not have gotten behind the wheel of that car. But you're just as guilty as he is. But for the fact that he got behind the wheel of the car, you would have gotten behind the wheel of the car and driven home. That's what would have happened. Then maybe you got pulled over. So, he got pulled over, and I don't care whether there was an agreement or not. You pay for half the bail, and you're so stupid you pay for half the bail. Do you understand? Now, you say he wrecked your car. Tell me about that.
June 30th, we were on our way to a concert. Again, he drove my car. We were in stop-and-go traffic. He had enough distance between him and the car in front of us, but he had turned to me to say something, and when he looked forward again, traffic had stopped. He slammed on the brakes and tried to merge a little bit, and the driver's side front end of my car ended up hitting the back of another person's car.
Yes.
We pulled off the freeway with the other person, and I had friends following me at the time, too, that were going to the concert with us. The woman in the car wasn't hurt. She had absolutely no damage done to her car, and she said that she was in a rush, so she didn't want to file a police report or exchange information, so we all left.
So, what kind of car was this?
It's a 2000 Mitsubishi Eclipse.
So you have insurance?
Yes.
Did you pay to have the car fixed?
No, I haven't gotten it fixed yet.
Why not?
It turns out afterwards I found out that his license was suspended due to the DUI, which means that my insurance won't cover his driving my car because he didn't have a valid driver's license at the time.
Why did you get behind the wheel of a car if you had a suspended license?
I wasn't even in the car.
Oh, really? Tell me about that.
Well, I wasn't even in the car. She said that she was going with some friends to a concert. I was working, actually, on the road. What I do is I move people's furniture. I'm a truck driver. I was out of town.
So according to you, you never were in an accident with her car?
Nope. Never.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They had been in a terrible fight that morning. Then he shows up, gives her flowers, and insists on driving. I was one car behind them when the impact occurred. He hit them. I'm not sure how fast he was going.
Is this beginning to jog your memory a little bit?
And later today,
Why aren't you responsible?
Because he had told me that he was going to pay for it, and I said that was fine.
So sue him.
Yeah, he should sue him. He shouldn't be suing
No!
me.
You sue him!
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Lisa Russell says she posted bail for ex-boyfriend Mark Foster when he was arrested on a DUI. Lisa also claims that during a separate incident, Mark wrecked her car.
Go ahead.
Basically, I'd heard about the accident through the grapevine, you know, that some other guy was driving the car or whatever, you know, and I questioned her about it. Of course, she denied it. And once I got married, all of a sudden this whole lawsuit thing came about.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I think she had hopes that, you know, we would be back together and yada yada. And once I got married, you know, it seemed a little bitter.
I think you ought to have your car fixed.
I think I need to have it fixed too. I didn't want to pay the money out of my own pocket to have it fixed, though.
Well, if you let somebody under the influence of alcohol drive your car again, maybe you have to pay the consequence of that. I can't tell whether he was driving the car or not. You have any witnesses here who were in the car with him?
Jonna was driving right behind us.
Step up. Tell me your last name, please.
Costello.
Are you friend, relative?
Just a friend.
Okay. Tell me what you observed.
We were all driving to San Bernardino for a concert. Mark and Lisa had gotten the tickets. I met them both at her house. From there...
Is this beginning to jog your memory a little bit?
Not at all.
Okay.
They had been in a terrible fight that morning, so we weren't sure if he was coming or not. Then he shows up right before we were leaving, gives her flowers, and insists on driving. I followed them to the concert. I was one car behind them when the impact occurred. It was stop-and-go traffic. He hit them. I'm not sure how fast he was going at all.
How did he get to her house?
You know, I don't know. I think he might have driven there or gotten dropped off. I just saw him come in.
How did he get to your house?
He was living with me at the time.
I didn't even know that.
Really?
He was living with me at my parents' house at the time.
Oh. So if he was living with you, were you living in the same room? You sharing a room?
Yes.
Good. Then you ought to know that he has a suspended license.
I never asked him what...
You should have asked. You should have asked.
I should have asked.
Because that's what a deductible is for on your insurance. Because you certainly knew that you'd bailed him out of jail. You'd be smart. You say, what happens with your license during that time? I'm sure you were involved in his getting an attorney, right? Did you ever go with him to the attorney's office?
No, I never went with him to the
Did you
attorney's.
discuss with him the visits that he had with the attorney?
We discussed how much time he was going to be spending in jail, considering the fact that he had violated probation, and his probation officer wanted to give him, I think, up to 2 months, and he told me that his attorney was getting him off for about 2.5 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Between the time that he was arrested for this DUI and the June 30th, since he was living with you, how many times did he drive your car?
He drove my car numerous times.
Of course. Okay. What's the deductible on your insurance?
$1,000.
Let me see. And I also want to see the estimate.
I got 3 different estimates from 3 different auto body companies.
Well, the cheapest estimate is $1,506. Is that right?
Yes.
And you have a $1,000 deductible on your policy, right?
Correct.
So he's responsible for half of that, because I find that half of that is attributed to you, because you should have known that he wasn't supposed to be driving your car. And I think you did know that he wasn't supposed to be driving anybody's car. Now, you want to tell me about the cigarette hole?
Cigarette hole was New Year's Eve, and I was driving us back home because I was sober at the time. And he was trying to flick his ash of the cigarette out the window, which was only cracked a little bit, and instead he hit the headliner, and the cherry of the cigarette went up into the headliner and burned a hole. Car's only 2 years old. I'd like to keep it in as good of condition as I possibly can.
When did you marry?
April 16th.
January, February, March. Did you file a lawsuit against him?
I filed my lawsuit originally.
Those your original papers?
Yes.
Let me see them, please. What were you suing him for $5,000 for debts?
I was angry at the time. I was trying to go after phone bills from when he was in jail. I was going to ask for half of the collect calls that he made and then interest on all the money that I've lost to him.
Well, your original lawsuit, madam, was $5,000. That's what you originally filed. When you were here, you filed for $2471.98, and I find that he actually owes you $882.50. Judgment for the plaintiff.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Not give anybody a dime ever again.
Justice was served.
Don't be in a similar situation.
Don't drive drunk.
17-year-old John Geary and his mother, waitress Tori St. Clair, are suing 17-year-old Aaron Roberts and his mother, restaurant manager Diane Boland, for the cost to repair their car. Aaron and Diane are countersuing for court fines and punitive damages.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 130 on the calendar in the matter of Geary St. Clair versus Roberts Boland. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
John gave Aaron the keys to his car, which is your car.
Our car.
How old are you?
I'm 17 years old.
So it's your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron trashed the car. You want Aaron's mom to pay for the trashed car.
Yes, ma'am.
Aaron's mom says John should never have given him the keys to the car, that he knew he didn't have a driver's license, therefore you are responsible. And she is counterclaiming because Aaron got a whole bunch of tickets and fines as a result of driving this car without a license. And she is counterclaiming for the cost of those tickets, etc. Is that right?
Correct.
And just so that I understand, you believe that your son has no responsibility with regard to this accident, that it's totally Aaron's fault, and you believe that the accident is totally John's fault for giving him the keys to the car, and that they actually should pay you for the cost that you had to absorb for the tickets that your son got. Is that right?
No, Your Honor. I think they're both responsible.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, if you think they're both responsible, how could you be counterclaiming?
Because I think that John is just equally as responsible as Aaron is for the tickets that Aaron incurred. If he hadn't given Aaron the keys to the car, it wouldn't have happened.
Okay. Tell me the circumstances surrounding John, you getting giving the keys to Aaron.
Well, what happened was the defendant and I we had a couple friends over at another friend's house. We had gone to buy some alcohol earlier that evening. We had the plaintiff's sister's roommate buy it.
And you got drunk?
Yes.
Now, Aaron, you acknowledge that John was drunk. Is that right? You say that in your papers.
Earlier that night.
He was drunk
Yeah.
and sick. You said he got sick.
Yes.
Were you drinking?
I had a shot.
A shot of what?
Vodka.
Well, you say you were sober. Were you sober?
Yes.
And he was drunk?
Around midnight.
Don't try to be smart with me, Aaron. I just want to explain that to you. Do not be smart with me. What time did you get the keys to the car?
It was around 3 o'clock.
Where was John, sitting, standing, or lying when you got the keys to the car?
We were upstairs.
Upstairs where?
I was using the bathroom when my friend Brandon asked him if I could drive his car to the gas station.
Where was he?
He was standing outside the bathroom with Brandon.
So you didn't ask him for the keys?
No.
Some third party did?
Yes.
Now, why did you take the keys to the car if you have no driver's license?
Because I wanted to drive to the gas station.
Well, that was wrong.
I know this.
That was wrong. You took the keys to the car. You had no driver's license. You had no right to be driving a car. You had some alcohol to drink. So why did you take the keys? Why did you get behind the wheel of a car? Hama?
I don't really know.
Now, what happened when you got into the car?
I drove the car.
What happened?
Well, when the accident happened?
Yeah.
Well, we were driving down the street, and he couldn't get the CD out of the CD player. So I bent over, and I was messing with the CD player. And I looked back up, and I noticed that it went from 2 lanes down to 1 lane. So I swerved over, and I over-swerved, so I went to swerve back, and the car skidded out of control.
So let's see what you did, Aaron. You took keys to a car to drive it, despite the fact that you didn't have a license. You had had alcohol to drink, and I would make a good wager that you had more than one shot of vodka that night. Got behind the wheel of the car. You weren't paying attention to what you were doing. You were fidgeting around with a CD because you wanted to play music, right? You weren't looking where you were going, and you got into an accident, right?
Right.
Okay. Now we got the fault on your side. Now let's hear from you, John. Tell me about how Aaron got the keys to the car.
Well, first of all, we weren't upstairs and he wasn't going to the bathroom. I had been drinking really heavily. I probably had close to maybe 7 or 8 shots and a few
Wrong.
beers.
And that was what?
It was wrong.
Right.
And I was laying down on our friend's guest bed at the house we were staying at, drinking and everything. And him and another friend of mine, the plaintiff, had came and asked me for the keys. I was very incoherent. They had said, John, we're going to go a couple blocks away to a Quick Trip, get some Coca-Cola. I'm like, okay, be back in 10 minutes.
Why did you give him the keys to the car? You knew he didn't have a license?
I did not know he had a license.
That he didn't have a license?
I didn't know that he did not have a license.
Earlier that night, he let me drive his car, and I told him I did not have a driver's license.
Well, tell me about that. When earlier did you drive
It was
the
around
car?
like 6 o'clock.
Well,
He
now I
let me
want you
drive
to
his
tell me
car.
about that earlier incident. Tell me about it.
He let me take his car for...
No! Tell me where you were, what you were doing, and the exact conversation when you asked him for the car to borrow the car.
I was using the bathroom upstairs, and when we asked him...
No, don't help him out. He's in the bathroom a lot. Earlier that evening, about 6 o'clock, you were in the bathroom.
No, not that time.
I'm talking about that time.
Well, I didn't know that. But that time, I don't remember where
You remember. Start remembering.
I don't remember.
Remember. I'm telling you to remember. If you don't remember, then how do you remember, sir, that you said to him, I don't have a license, but can I have your car
I wasn't
anyway?
the only one that said it to him.
What?
I wasn't the only one that said it to him that
I
night.
want to hear what you told him.
I already told you.
No, you didn't tell me how you got the keys to his car the first time, sir.
I don't remember why I was driving the car the first time, but I did.
Did he drive your car before?
No.
He doesn't remember. He doesn't remember it didn't happen. Neither did it happen that he told you that he didn't have a license. How old are you?
17.
Can I see the damage done to the car, please?
Pictures? What a police report.
A little bit of everything.
Here, I'm sorry.
Hit and run. You mean after you had the accident you took off?
I walked down to the gas station. The car was locked.
And running, according to the police. So you locked the car running.
When we hit the curb, the car tipped over on its side. We climbed out the top. We tipped it back over. It was still in gear, so the doors automatically locked on it. We could not get back inside.
Well, the police officers certainly smelled alcohol on you. And you were going very fast, according to the skid marks. Much faster than the 40 or 50 that you told the policeman you were going.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They were all drinking. Your son is 17 years old. He had no right to be drinking and drunk.
And later today,
My daughter's only 2 years old. She was abusing my child, and I wasn't going to let my child stay there and be abused.
She said, call your husband, call your husband. She think I was calling him. I was really calling the cops.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old John Geary says former friend, 17-year-old Aaron Roberts, drove his car drunk and wrecked it. Aaron's mom says John gave him the keys.
Your Honor, a lot of the damage was underneath the vehicle, which we could not get pictures of because of the semen underneath.
Can I see your estimates, please? What year car is this?
93.
Was it fixed?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let me tell you what my ruling is. Let me address the counterclaim first. Your counterclaim is dismissed in its entirety. As outlined to you earlier, your son did all the wrong things. He's 17 years old. He was drinking. He took a car. He should not have taken the car. He had no license. He was inattentive in driving that car. He was speeding. He had an accident. His fault. He pays the tickets. He pays the fine and gets a suspension on whatever license he might get in the future. I'm sure he's not going to get a license when he wants to, and that's just ducky with me. So your counterclaim is dismissed. Now let's go to your claim. You're going to get something, but not all of it. Your son is 17 years old. He had no right to be drinking and drunk. He lent the keys to his car to someone else who he also knew had been drinking, because that's what they were doing all night. They were all drinking. So if he had been not doing the wrong thing as an underage drinker, this whole accident wouldn't have happened. It's more his fault than his fault. But he has a certain responsibility. When you give someone a car, that person has to have total responsibility. If he had driven the car home and it had a terrible accident and someone would have been killed, he would have spent some time in jail. Good amount of time. Well, he knew that he had been drinking, because that's what they were all doing there that night.
I never saw him take a drink, Your Honor.
You don't have to see him take a drink, sir. That's what everybody was doing at the party or whatever gathering you were having. You'd been drinking all night. You didn't have to see him. You weren't aware enough to say to him, have you been drinking at all before I give you the keys to the car, whether you knew he had a license or not? Certainly, if you hadn't been drinking, you would have noticed that he had alcohol all over his breath, because the police officer noticed it. You were in no condition to notice it. But you have a certain responsibility. It cost your mother $4,276 to fix this car. And I'm issuing a judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,200. The rest of it, I suggest you work off and pay back your mother. Do you understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Good. That's all.
Thank you,
Oh,
Your
you're
Honor.
excused. You may step out.
He told me it had been an accident.
That's something a mother never wants to hear.
They both were guilty. They both did wrong.
4:30 on a Sunday morning, do you know where your son is?
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Burdock versus Mayo, step forward, please.
21-year-old student Jessica Burdock is suing her former friend, 20-year-old cashier Jennifer Mayo, for shooting her in the face with a pellet gun. Jennifer says Jessica asked her to do it.
Ms. Burdock, the defendant is a friend of yours, or was a friend of yours.
Was.
And she shot you in the face.
Yes, she did.
With a pellet gun.
Mm-hmm.
Could you step up here? I'd like to look and see where the mark is from that.
I have this scar and an indent in my gum.
Well, the indent in your gum you don't see. Let me see the scar.
And no feeling in 2 teeth.
Okay, step back. I'd like you to tell me when this happened and under what circumstances.
It happened last year, July 7th, I believe. And we were trying to wake him up, and then we brought him.
Let's start from the. Where were you?
We were at my apartment.
How many people were there?
4 of us.
Did you all live together?
Joe and I did, and we had another roommate, and she was over visiting us.
Go ahead.
And we were looking for cameras to go get developed that day, and she found Joe's pellet gun. And she played around with it, and she pointed it at my face. And I said, don't point that at me. And she said, well, it's never loaded. And she shot it.
No. Shut up. Don't speak. Don't speak.
And I remember my hair went flying, and I had this really bad sting, and I covered my mouth. And she was like, did that hurt? And I moved my hand, and there was just, like, blood pouring out. And I started screaming and crying. And
what kind of medical treatment did you need?
I went to the hospital in the ambulance, and then they said that the pellet was lodged too far in my gum to be taken out, so I had to go have oral surgery.
Can I see your medical bills, please?
I also have a picture. There's a police report there also.
Take it away, Miss Mayo. Let's hear you now.
Okay, we had woke up that morning and we had started cleaning her apartment because she had her DHS lady coming to check on the apartment to see if it was all in order. So we were cleaning, and I picked up this pellet gun and said...
What'd you pick it up for?
All of our friends in previous days had passed around the gun to feel the CO2 pressure. That is what I knew it as, a CO2 gun. I had no idea it could carry anything else but CO2.
Shh. Did you hear what I said? So, how old are you?
20 years old.
So you picked it up?
Yes.
How big is this gun? Where was it? Where did you have to get it from in order to pick it up?
It was on a table.
Go ahead.
And so I said, this is CO2 pressure. You want to feel what this is like? And she said, no. I said, well, it's not loaded. It can't carry anything but CO2. And so I said, here, you want to feel this? And she said, okay, go ahead. And so, and does it hurt? Oh, my God. And we were both hysterically
Miss
crying.
Mayo, that is such a crock that you just gave me. I believe that this was an accident. Listen to me. I believe that this is an accident, which is your defense, that it was an accident, that you didn't know that it was a pellet gun. But let's examine the circumstances of what you did. You picked up a gun like an idiot. You weren't sure what it was, like a fool. You pointed it at someone like a moron. And then you said to another human being who was a friend of yours, you want to see how this feels. She's smart enough to say, no. That's what you said. Then you fudged it a little, because then she said, all right, go ahead. Shoot me, pointing it in her face. That didn't happen. That didn't happen. No, that didn't happen. What happened was she said no, and you were fooling around because you really didn't think that it had a pellet in it. And even if you did think that it was more than that, you had no intention of hurting her, who should pay these bills?
I have no problem paying these bills.
Good. Oh, perfect. So
Well,
then
there
what are
we
we
go.
doing here? Good. You do something irresponsible, you have to pay. Our medical bills are $1,278. For your stupidity, I'm tacking on another $2,000. $3,278. That's all. Step out.
Thank you.
These are excuses. You may step out.
She is very irresponsible. She is selfish. She only thinks about herself. That's all she cares about.
She said, okay, you know, let me feel what it feels like.
Zola's at home, loaches off of everybody. You don't know that, honey.
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, no, you don't.
They were shooting themselves in the mouth. They felt it on their face.
I was never around. That did not happen that day. I've never seen them do that. But she knows that that was a pellet gun.
She lies about, okay, I have 4 tattoos and only has 1.
About time that she faced up to some responsibilities instead of screwing over all of her previous friends.
All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2101, Lawson versus Baumgartner.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Miss Larson, it is your claim that the defendant's son, I assume that's this young man over here, vandalized your car. And he vandalized your car by smashing in a side mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Which required you to be without a car for a day while they fixed it. So you want his father, who was actually present at the time, to pay for the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
From what I gather, this happened on Father's Day, which was June 19th of this year, and you were going over to visit your father.
Yes.
For Father's Day. Stand up. What I gather from your complaint, was he sleeping?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Some sort of an altercation happened, which you'll tell me about in a moment. His father was called.
Yes, ma'am.
His father came. This kerfuffle continued, and when they were on their way out, this young man, whose name is?
Caden Baumgartner?
Caden.
Caden.
Caden smashed in your passenger mirror.
Right.
That's your defense.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's start out when you arrived at your father's house. What time?
I arrived at my father's about, I would say, about 11:15.
Okay. What happened?
And it woke up Caden in the process. Caden got upset.
What did he say? How did you know he was upset?
He started screaming and pretty much saying, why the heck are you coming in here, waking everybody up? You have no right to.
Okay.
And then after that, Caden got up and started yelling, started punching the walls, screaming. My father went in there, and then his father, Chris, ended up getting called to come get Caden.
How far do you live from where Miss Larson's father lived?
About 7 miles away.
How old is your son?
He's 16.
Is he the oldest? Where did you think he was going?
No, I knew he was over at they had something to do for Mother's Day, and then they had
That was
another-
Father's Day.
Well, I know, but I'm saying for the entire
Mother's Day is in May, Father's Day is in June.
But they
usually don't have carryovers.
Planned, I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, he was over there.
Times have changed. Life has changed. The only time you got to sleep outside your house when I was growing up was when you were outside in a pine box or a white dress. That was it. Those were your choices.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way you could leave your parents' house, right? I chose the dress. All right. Now, Caden, I'm going to come around to you because, you know, we're not talking about somebody losing 2 pints of blood
Yeah.
or somebody losing a finger.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to wake up a teenager at 11:30 in the morning. I'm usually in, right?
Yes.
Why?
Well, she did put it the right way, but she didn't put it the right way because...
But just tell me why.
Well,
Don't look at her. Talk
she
to me.
didn't just wake her up. She came in there loud.
When she walked in, Caden, to a room in her father's house, what did she say? And tell me in what tone of voice she said it.
She said in like a excited voice, but not like a mad voice, excited voice.
All right, and that got you mad.
No, that's not what got me mad. I didn't
What got you mad?
By the time I could even finish my sentence, she's already busted in through the door and was in my face saying, "You got something to say to me."
Just a second. You're not following me. She came in, and the first thing you said was she was talking too loud, and I want to know what you said to her.
I didn't say nothing to her.
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't even
Nothing.
look at her.
And then she left. So
she cussed at me, but then she walked in there and she later said,
who cussed at you?
Her. And then she later said
well,
that
just
she
a
was
second.
talking-
That's a different story. Okay, so what you're saying to me is you believe that she came over for the purpose of getting you out of the house.
I believe so, yes, because that's what I got told.
Well, let us assume for a moment that's true. That would sound right to me. Get him out of the house. It's 11:30 in the morning on Father's Day. We want to have a party here. Get him out of the house. That would sound right on the money to moi. Right on the money. I mean, if that's what it was about. So I don't care if that's what it was about or not. Okay, your father comes. What happened when you got there, sir?
When I showed up, I went to the door, I knocked on it, they answered the door, it was pretty chaotic.
Look at me.
It was pretty chaotic.
Describe what chaotic is.
Okay, there was a bunch of yelling and screaming going on between Caden, my son, and the plaintiff.
And Miss Larson.
Miss Larson, yes. And I told my son, I said, hey, you just need to step outside and let me figure out what's going on here, and I'll be right out. I tried to talk to Mark. Mark come out.
The father came out of the room and said, I want Caden to leave.
Right.
And did he leave?
When I come and got him, we left, yes, we did.
And he walked out the front door.
Yes, he did.
And when he walked out the front door, he passed the plaintiff's car.
Yes, I believe so.
What do you mean? You wrote it in your answer, sir.
Yes, I
so
did.
the answer is yes.
Yes.
And you saw him do what to the mirror? Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
And later today.
What do you think that I think of a person who says, okay, I'll go with you to this very, very sad time. Someone who I've been close and intimate with for months, but it's going to cost you $900.
Claims Chris Bumgardner's 16-year-old son, Caden, vandalized her car.
Now, you saw him do what to the mirror?
Push it in.
Okay, very good. Now, do you have photographs of the pushed-in mirror?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
Okay, one moment.
Just for my own curiosity, you knew that it was wrong for him to touch that mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if what you say is he just pushed the mirror in and all it had to do is be, you believe, to be clicked out?
I believe to be
just,
clicked out.
Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you say to him, don't touch somebody else's property? That's what this is all about.
Well, I
Your
believe
temper.
I did say that to him.
Just
I
a
said,
second.
Don't put your hand.
Well, then why didn't you pull out the mirror if that's all it was? If you say the only thing
because
wrong
she
with the
was
mirror is
coming
that it has to be pulled out, why didn't you do that? You didn't see him touch the mirror.
No, I did not.
You were there.
She was right behind us.
She didn't see it. You saw it. So my only question to you is, if you saw it and it was that minor thing, and you know what it is, either you can click the mirror in and then you pull it out. I'm always afraid to click it out that I'm going to break it.
Exactly.
You're not suggesting that anybody else touched this mirror to damage it, the mirror.
I believe it was his hand.
When you say you believe it was his hand, did you see what was in his hand?
He had nothing in his hand.
Did his hand get bloody?
No.
Okay, Kevin, would you turn these over to the defendant, please, and get from the plaintiff an estimate for the damage?
That's not what...
Well, they ripped it off there.
Well, yeah, clearly, because that's not what it looked like when I seen. Because when he walked by, he just simply... Okay. And I said, now, Caden, that's enough.
So you had a $500 deductible on your insurance?
Yes, I did.
And you had it fixed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you paid $442.74. Okay. Just want to see what you have for a car rental.
Your Honor, I don't understand this car rental part of it. I've been without a mirror before.
Sir, you're not allowed to drive without two mirrors.
Then there was one in the cab as well. That's two mirrors, isn't it?
I don't know what you're asking me, sir, because at some point you just have to take the car, and let's say it takes a day once you get the parts. At some point you have to take the car in and you're without a car for a day. Well, then you can either be without a car for a day or you can rent a car for a day. I'm not giving her a rental for a month. I'm not crazy. You know, there's a certain amount of inconvenience that one endures when somebody else vandalizes a piece of their property. And that's part of the punishment.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand. Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
I don't think you needed 15 days to fix this.
I didn't think so either.
Well, I certainly don't think so.
I didn't think that I needed to pay the whole $1,300 out of pocket.
I'm just glad someone finally held them accountable for what they did.
The mirror, I was walking past it and just hit it. Bam, you know what I mean?
I finally am getting reimbursed for the money I had to pay.
I knew what I was doing, and when I did it, I did regret it after I did it, you know what I mean?
I feel like some people need to control their children better.
It's also a sign of the times that this father did not own up to what he saw.
I will say he was on the more responsible side of parents than some that we've seen here. He said, I said, Caden, what are you doing? This is not how you act. This is not how you behave. So that I almost appreciated. But he didn't take it as far as you or I would have liked.
As far as knock at the door. I know this is hot. My son did something wrong. I'm going to pay for it.
Yep.
Whatever it is. I have to come into the 21st century kicking in.
Paid loan and stolen money.
Miss Banks, what kind of work do you do?
I'm a city contractor for the city and county of San Francisco.
How long have you been working for the city of San Francisco?
30 years.
You a full-time employee?
No, I'm a contractor, so I'm used as needed.
Well, in the last month, how many days have you worked?
Like around 40 hours the whole month.
How do you support yourself?
I'm on disability.
How long have you been on disability?
Since roughly like around February of 2022.
When you applied for disability, were you originally rejected or did they accept your claim?
I was rejected 3 times, actually.
So when you started collecting in February of 2022, you got a big check for back disability.
Yes, ma'am.
I know my business. How much of a check did you get?
I got $7,000 the first time, and they just submitted me like $8,000 a month or 2 ago. And then there are some more coming. It ain't all came yet.
Mm-hmm. They advised you, because you were rejected, as you said, 2 or 3 times, that there would be a total amount coming to you. You got a letter from the administration.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. And what is the total amount that they told you you would be receiving in increments?
I think it was like $18,000.
And you had a lawyer at the appeal.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, when you applied for disability, did you say that there was no kind of work that you could do? I'm jaundiced. I know that people put money in somebody else's bank when they want to hide it from the government, creditors, a spouse looking for support, all what I would call nefarious reasons to put money in somebody else's bank.
Her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, stole money from their shared bank account.
Now, when you applied for disability, did you say that there was no kind of work that you could do?
Well, actually...
No, not actually. They're giving you $18,000. They said that they should have taken your case when you first applied for disability. So they had to have found that you could not hold gainful employment. That's what it's all about when you get federal disability.
Right.
Right. So I want to know what this 40 hours a month that you worked last month as an independent contractor. What kind of independent contractor were you?
I actually sit on Zooms, and I am a consultant, so I'm on Zooms most of the time.
And when you're not on Zooms, where are you?
At home.
What do you consult about?
I am an urban consultant, so I work with various people that's trying to find out about urban living and mental health, basically working around mental health.
How are you paid?
They might.
No, not might.
They mail a check.
What do you do with that check?
I usually cash it at a store in the community.
You cash it. What is your hourly wage?
As a consultant?
Yeah.
I'm usually paid like $130 an hour.
And what's the amount of money you get from disability a month, not counting these extra payments for when they denied you disability?
$1,000.
So you get $1,000 a month plus $130 an hour times the last month, you said was 40 hours. You said that she worked about 40 hours last month.
Can I explain something? Not
No.
all.
No.
She said around 40 hours the whole month.
Okay. Would you tell me what she says she earns an hour?
It's usually $130 an hour.
$5,200. And when you get the checks for these consulting things, you take them and you cash them. That's either a yes or a no. Do you work as a sole independent contractor, or do you have an LLC or a corporation?
No, ma'am.
So the checks are made out to you?
Yes, ma'am.
As an independent contractor?
Yes, ma'am.
You have to pay your own taxes, so you're 1099 from all these people?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you declare on your taxes last year?
I didn't file taxes last year, ma'am.
Why not? You said you've been working in this capacity on and off for 30 years.
Because,
for the city.
ma'am, where I come from, a lot of the work is volunteer work considered, and you are given a stipend. And some of the work I do, sometimes I don't even get paid, but I still do the work.
Listen, you know exactly where I'm going. We're two savvy people. When you cash those checks, because this is what the case is about, for some reason, because I'm trying to figure out why somebody puts money into somebody else's bank account, because part of this case is about that. You and Mr. Mitchell became friends, maybe a little bit more than friends, I don't know. At some point, according to you, you gave him money to hold in his bank account because his bank account was closer to where you are and you didn't want to go on two buses to where your bank was. Am I getting that right? Is that what you...
No, ma'am.
Let's see. I'm telling you why I made these inquiries to you. I was struggling to find, and I was in a bind. This is what you write. When Fulton heard about my problem, he offered to hold my money for me in his bank. He said that he didn't keep any money in that account, so it would be perfect, because his bank was right where I worked. I only know of several reasons why strangers put money in somebody else's account. You know, I may have an account with Sarah. I may have an account with one of my other grandchildren. I have an account with my husband. But I've had a best friend for 70 years, another best friend for 30 years. And I would never think of putting money in their bank account because there are banks all over the place. I'm just telling you, you know, I'm jaundiced. I know that people put money in somebody else's bank when they want to hide it, when they want to hide it from the government, creditors, a spouse looking for support, a spouse looking for alimony, a contractor who has a judgment against them. All what I would call nefarious reasons to put money in somebody else's bank. But let us say that you did put money in this bank account, and you say that money was withdrawn. Your money was withdrawn from that account to pay his taxes. Is that what you're alleging?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How much was withdrawn from his account that only his name was on? Or was your name on it too?
My name is on it too.
Oh, there we go. Now I can understand it, why you might owe taxes. I don't know anything about his business, but I can certainly. So if her name was on it too, it was a joint account.
It was not. It was my account, and I added her name to my
That's okay. That makes it a joint account.
Yes.
Okay, well, I didn't have that information in here because joint account is absolutely different. Joint account means that the money belongs to both of you. Now, what makes you think that the money that was taken out of the account was to pay his taxes?
Because I have proof, Your
I'd
Honor.
like to see it. What account is this? Whose money is that?
Mine.
Explain that to me. This is a deposit here for $988.68. What is that?
That's when the pandemic hit and the struggles started getting hard trying to get money. And being that me and him was business partners, that's when he decided to try to help me out.
You know, I neither have the time or the interest to hear about the nuances of this stuff because I don't have the wherewithal, either emotionally or structurally, to figure out the whole scam. I haven't figured it all out yet, but I'm beginning to figure it out. So you deposited $988 and then withdrew at some point in May. That was on June 9th. I don't have the rest of it here, but you withdrew $1,600 from that account on May 25th. Do you remember what that was for? The 60...
May 25th?
Yeah, May 25th, $1,600, June 3rd, tax levy, 2711.
The May 25th is because that's my daughter's birthday, and I spent time with my daughter. And then the June 3rd tax levy is why I'm here with you today.
What kind of business were you in together?
In his organization so that we can do things together.
That's not true.
Your Honor, I have proof. I do work with his organization. I'm putting on a Halloween event.
I don't
Here's
care.
his logo on
Let's
there.
understand each other. I don't care because something doesn't smell right for me. And if something doesn't smell right with this nose, it's usually accurate. Usually. You said you took out $1,000. When and for what purpose?
I took out the $1,000 and I gave it to Miss Banks.
That's not what you said.
What did I say, Mr.
It's not what you said. It's not what you swore to.
Queen Vanessa Banks is suing her former friend, Fulton Mitchell, for an unpaid loan and stolen money.
When someone puts money in somebody else's bank account, it's because they're trying to somehow shield that money from some sort of scrutiny. If your only source of income, which you would like me to believe, is this $1,000 from disability and the $18,000 that you're going to get for retroactive disability.
She was on some other kind of services also. I don't know whether it was SSI or something. When she first came to me, she wanted me to hold the money and put it in my account because she didn't want it to mess up her money.
That's not true. That's not true, Your Honor. He started helping me in 2019. In 2020, he asked me to start up a business.
I've never tried to start up a business.
Just a second.
Your Honor, I got proof because he lying to you.
Just a second. I don't care that you were starting a business. It doesn't make any difference to me. It really doesn't make any difference to me. You had a joint account, and the IRS took money out of that joint account. Was that your tax debt?
I don't know.
The answer is you don't know. Okay. Well, this says that it was the levy from California Franchise Tax Board was against Fulton W. Mitchell.
That's me.
That's what it's...
I asked her to show me that. I said, prove it to me. No, she never showed me that ever.
Okay. So my question to you is, sir, because of course you have to pay your own taxes.
Yes, ma'am.
Right? You would acknowledge that this bank account had only her funds in it?
No, it had my funds in there too.
Show me any deposits that you made into this account.
Well, I had money in there way before I put her money into my account. It's been in my account for over 10, 15 years.
What I want to see, Mr. Fulton,
yes,
is any place where you deposited $27.11 because that's what they took out.
No, I didn't deposit $27.11 into that account.
Ever?
No.
Okay, good. This responsibility is yours. You would acknowledge that it's yours.
Yes.
Okay, so that's $2,700, which you in fact owe her. She probably owes IRS or the state of California more money because I'm not sure that they know where all this money is going. Did you take any other money out of that account?
No, ma'am.
Yes, you did. You took out $1,000. You acknowledge you took out $1,000 by accident, you said, sir, and you said you paid it back.
She got it back.
Okay, well,
That's
then
not
don't
true,
say,
Your Honor.
shh, don't speak. Got into enough trouble, right, so far. You said you took out $1,000. When and for what purpose?
I took out the $1,000 and I gave it to Miss Banks.
That's not what you said.
What did I say, Miss Judy?
It's not what you said. It's not what you said. What do you mean, there you go? I said, when did you take money out of her account?
That was the only time I took the money out.
Well, tell me about it.
Vanessa started harassing me. She started showing up to my job and just doing all kind of stuff. So I was just trying to get rid of her.
And?
So I took the money out and gave it to her. And I'm...
Just a second. Put your hand down. Don't you understand what you signed?
Yeah.
You said, I accidentally took money out of her account, but then I gave it back to her, because if you accidentally took it out, it means it didn't belong to you. When did you accidentally take it out, and when did you give it back to her?
I took out the money, and the money was given to her. That was it. That was it. I was done with it.
Well,
I was done with her. I was done with all of it.
There was a time when I accidentally withdrew $1,000 from the account that belonged to Vanessa. but I paid that back in June 2022.
Those words are mixed up a little bit there.
That's what I read. That's your answer, sir. As for the rest of the money she claims I owe her, it's all a bunch of lies. I never took a $1,900 loan and don't owe money for the IRS. Well, you do owe money for the IRS because one of the things I think that everybody has to pay is their own tax levy and their own child support. You would acknowledge that.
I agree.
Okay, tell me about this loan of $1,900, Ms. Banks.
Mr. Mitchell had fell into a lot of hardship in the pandemic, and he came to me and asked me, could I loan him $1,900 to help out one.
That you gave him $1,900.
It was cash, Your Honor. The $1,000 he's saying he handed me back in June, that was from the $1,900.
I'm not following you, madam. Are you saying that he in total owed you, forget the IRS, $2,900, $1,000 that he took in 19?
He asked for $1,900
Never asked
cash.
you for $1,900.
I gave him $1,900 in cash.
Not true.
Then he paid me back $1,000 in June of 2022.
You have money in my account. Why would I ask you for $1,900? I would just go in there and grab it. That makes no sense.
Just a second. Why are you talking to her?
I'm sorry.
Where do you think you are?
I'm sorry. I apologize. She's never given me no $1,900. She's never given me anything in cash. Period. Ever.
I have proof.
I'm willing to look at it.
Yes. I told him that I needed to move forward with it, and if he don't give me what I need, I'll put it in writing. So
well, you may put it in writing. Well, you sent this to him, and it says acknowledgement of monetary debt in the amount of $4,600. You typed this up, and he never signed it.
No, he never signed it.
Yeah. Well, then it's meaningless. You can type up anything. I can type up something that says I own all of Sarah's real estate. If she doesn't sign it, I don't own anything.
Well, that's what $1,000 came from, because he was trying to cover that.
Yeah. You know, somehow I think I'm dealing with, I'm not sure about one or two people who've managed to master the system. And
no, not
also,
at all.
I don't know.
I
don't know. All I know is if somebody is working.
5 years.
Just a second. Hey, just a second. There's a reason why she asked to be added to your bank account. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't look as if you're a foolish man. What was the reason she gave you for wanting to have a bank account where you were the primary on that bank account? What was the reason
that she had coming in?
Her income from what?
Some kind of assistance. I'm not sure exactly what it was.
Whatever. Anyway, got a nice windfall, $18,000. By the way, I have one other question for you. In your complaint, which you read and signed and swore to, Fulton heard about my problems with money and where to put it, and he offered to hold my money in his account. He said he doesn't keep any money in there, so it would be perfect, because his bank was right where I worked. Where was his bank, and where do you work?
I work in the community that I was born and raised in, which is Bayview.
Okay, I'm not going to get a straight answer. You owe her for her tax debt, nothing else, $2,700.
This court is adjourned.
That's it, you're done.
I'll watch her like every day.
It was fair.
I'm thankful that she saw what it was for what it was.
You know, she asked me to put some money in the account for her. I did.
I never had to harass him. We were business partners for 2 or 3 years.
I don't know if it was a business agreement or not.
Because I told him I want my money.
I'm just happy it's over with.
You know what I was thinking about? I was thinking that I wouldn't have had that information about Social Security disability unless Poppy was an administrative law judge with Social Security 40 years ago. And I remember exactly what the drill was. File, you rejected, you file, you rejected, and finally you have to hire a lawyer, and the lawyer gets a big chunk of the relief, and you get all your back payments. So I have a feeling I was dealing with two people who had a substantial skill set in how to negotiate and...
It carries vehicle.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge.
Good morning.
Case 2138, Cargill versus Simonet.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Cargill, you and the defendant's son had an accident while you were driving your car, and Mr. Simonet's son was driving his electric scooter.
It was like a skateboard, a one-wheel skateboard.
Tell me your name.
Jacob Simonet.
Describe this vehicle that you were riding on.
It's got 2 spaces for your feet. Has one in the back, one in the front.
Now try to look at me. I'm trying to see you.
Oh.
Trying
There's
to
one in the
go
back,
like this.
one in the front, and then there's a big wheel in the center. And you put your feet on either side, and then it balances, and you ride it kind of like a skateboard.
Oh, I actually
I had a
have
feeling you
picture
might
of
need
myself
it.
riding on one of those for about 30 seconds.
Yeah.
We bought it for one of my grandchildren years ago. But are you required to drive that on the street where pedestrians walk or where cars ride?
On the sidewalk with the pedestrians.
Sidewalk.
Yes.
Do you drive it on the sidewalk?
Yes, I do.
Do you ever drive it in the street?
I do not.
Now you're going to tell me what happened on the date of this incident, which was August 17th.
This year, yes.
Okay.
Yes, I was going south after work, and I was going to crossing through the intersection. I had the green light.
Is there a chart?
Yes. Yes.
I'd like to see it.
Yeah, I was crossing the intersection.
You're the blue car.
I'm the blue car. And I had the green. It was going, and Jacob had cut through on the red into the green and slammed into.
Okay, Jacob, I want you to walk up to that sign and show me where you were when you and the plaintiff collided.
I was about right here.
You were in a crosswalk.
Yeah, I was in the crosswalk coming through and about
Okay,
right.
is that what, Jacob, is that what the police report is going to indicate? That you were in the crosswalk?
I don't know.
Well, I assume that there is a police report. Is that correct? Police report's going to tell me where the debris was, I assume. The debris is either going to be in a crosswalk or it's going to be in the street. Where do you think it's going to be?
Some of it was in the street.
Show me the street that you're talking about.
About like right
No,
here.
put your finger on it. Don't go around where it's
About right here.
right there. That would be in the middle, right? That would be in the middle of the street where the cars travel, not in the crosswalk.
Yeah.
Yes. It's easy.
Sure.
How old is he?
15.
All of my kids are pretty good kids, but you can always
Figure it
tell.
out, huh?
Yeah, you can usually tell. Is this your first, only?
Both, first and only.
First and only. Oh, well, she probably had some experience with that anyway.
A little bit.
A little bit. Okay, and this happened at what time during the day?
I believe it was about 4, a little after 4:30.
So it was light out.
Yes.
You collided with her car on the driver's side.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, on the door of the driver's side.
The fender.
Fender.
Yes.
Side fender?
Yes, side fender.
Okay, not the front of the car.
The front fender of the car.
Front fender of the car on the side. I'm talking about it was the side or the front?
The side.
Side. So you collided with her.
Yes.
Because cars don't move sideways.
Yeah.
Hit my windshield and then fell onto the ground. And when I stopped, he jumped up, appeared at my window, and apologized, and then asked me if I was okay.
What did he say?
Just said he was sorry. And then he asked me if I was okay. And then I asked if he was okay. And then he asked me if I was okay. And it went back.
So far, is that right?
Bit.
Yes.
Okay.
And which I was very impressed by, that he was more worried about me than anything else. I moved my car out of the road, onto the side of the road. There was an EMT that was across the street from us, and he came over and assessed him if there was any more damage. He got some road rash and things like that, but he was not seriously hurt, at least that we noticed at the time.
Do you have the police report?
I do.
I'd like to see it, please, Kevin. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One witness said that he was right next to you and that you went past him and that the light was red. His light was red, which is... Explain to me, would you put on this again and leave that one on because that's the version that I believe. Would you walk over there and explain to me what cut the corner was, what you were doing? It talks about cutting the corners. So I want you to understand, I believe that, based upon what I'm reading here, I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
So now I want you to show me how you cut the corner.
So I was coming to this one, and I went through, and instead of going here and just going through the sidewalk, I just went like around here and through this crosswalk.
What's cut the corner?
Cut the corner here, right there.
You mean just that little space is what you're talking about? You cut the corner?
Yeah, I went from about
I want you to understand, I believe that you were in the street.
here, I came here, and I cut here. So right there, I cut the corner.
He is a nice boy, Mr. Simonette.
Thank you.
You know what my father told me when he gave me my first car? I think I was 17, but it was like a tank. He said, because if you get in an accident, I want you to be surrounded by 4,000 pounds of steel.
And later today,
Your claim is that you won a whole bunch of money in some gambling thing. I just want you to tell me how much you won.
Before taxes or after?
Both.
Carrie Cargill claims Joseph Simonet owes for damage after his 15-year-old son hit Carrie's car while riding an electric skateboard.
Okay. The police determined that based upon the eyewitness testimony that the pedestrian, Jacob, is at fault and believed to have crossed the intersection. Called to the scene by your son, is that right?
Correct.
And you got there, you know that he was a little banged up, but thankfully...
He was in
okay.
an ambulance when I arrived, but shortly after, yes, he did walk out of the ambulance and suffered some injuries, which I have pictures of if you'd like to see them.
I'm sure he was banged up. He had bruises from falling off the...
From being launched from the vehicle after the collision, correct.
Okay. You know, he was really lucky that she wasn't going faster.
Correct. Could have been much worse. We were
Could have been much
thankful for his health and the outcome of the incident.
You're right. Okay, can I see an estimate to fix your car, please? Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge.
What kind of a car do you have? Deductible.
Yes.
Right. Anything else you want to tell me, Jacob?
No.
Do you still ride one of those things?
It's broken. I didn't get a new one, no.
It was destroyed in the accident.
You know what my father told me when he gave me my first car? I think I was 17. He bought me the oldest, ugliest car, but it was like a tank. All my other friends were getting these nice, cute little cars, and this one was like an old person's tank Cadillac or something. You know, we're talking 50 years ago. And I said, why do I have to have this car? Everybody else has cute cars. He said, because if you get in an accident, I want you to be surrounded by 4,000 pounds of steel. That's pretty much the lesson that I've sent out there. 4,000 pounds of steel. One and only, surrounded by lots of steel. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. Thank you, we're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Overall, I'm happy.
She had some...
Glad that he was okay.
I remember just flying through the air, and then I was on the ground and I got right up.
Be very careful.
Count your blessings and enjoy every moment that you have, because things could change in an instant.
I know these electric scooters and skateboards are very popular, but even before this case, I tried to look up any rules, laws, regulations. There are a few for electric motorbikes and things like that, but far fewer than I would expect for a machine that can go up to 17 miles an hour when you're 15.
I think that you're right. I think that since those things have become so popular, they really have to be enforced rules. And parents, and this is a very nice father and son, but I've seen kids weave in and out of cars. It always looked like an accident waiting to happen.
Yeah. And this one could have ended in a real tragedy.
It was lucky.
W-Bug Paint Job.
Miss Wimberly, tell me about this car that you have.
So I have a 69 Volkswagen Beetle. I've had the car for about 20 years.
Where did you buy it?
In Salt Lake City, Utah.
Is it a bus or a bug?
It's a bug.
My goodness, I remember everyone had one of those cars. The whole world had those little bugs when they came out. Except me, scared to death. Okay. Anyway, you've had it for a long time and you try to keep it restored. Do you have a photograph of it?
I do, yes,
I'd like
ma'am.
to take a look at it, please. You acknowledge it's unsatisfactory because
No,
you said,
I didn't
I'll
acknowledge.
fix
I
it.
said I'd take care of it. And a good gesture to try to make things work with her. I did not deny her any kind of service or say...
Auto body worker Robert Miera owes a refund on a 1969 VW Bug paint job.
As you're getting that, the case is simple. You want your money back for a bad paint job that you say that Mr. Miera did on the car. Okay. So this is a picture of the car before he painted it?
No, ma'am, that's after.
Oh, that's after. Color. Do you have a photograph of what the car looked like before you took it in to the defendant?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
But I have pictures of after the bubbling that it's doing.
Yeah, I'll take a look at it. Okay. Have you shown these pictures of the bubbling to Mr. Miera?
I have, Your Honor.
And you've seen them, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this is the story. You brought your car into Mr. Miera to paint it. He gave you a price. The price was in the car.
In January.
Of what year?
2021.
And when did you pick the car up from him?
May of 21. I was moving from Albuquerque, New Mexico to Louisiana, and as May got closer and closer, I kept telling him, I'm leaving, I'm leaving. You
Okay.
know.
The car was there from January until May.
Yes, ma'am.
You picked the car up in May. Was it ready in May?
Yes, ma'am.
When she picked it up?
Yes, it was ready when she picked it up.
When had you painted it?
Probably painted it at the beginning. No, it wasn't completely sanded. We had an agreement that she was supposed to help me repair the car. You know, that's why I gave her a price that I did, because she wanted to help and learn how the process went.
Okay.
So
just look up for me.
So I gave her
1969 VW Bug.
So I gave her
found
the
it on the
chance
classic car.
to
Okay.
learn the
But
process.
you say it was ready when she picked it up.
Yes.
Okay. And she showed you the pictures of the bubbling on the car.
Yes.
And she paid you $6,500.
Yes.
Well, I would have a trouble with that bubbling myself.
Of course, I understand.
So?
I offered to fix the car.
And?
She didn't want to bring it back.
Well, that's trip far to bring it back.
Well, that's...
I would expect if I paid $6,000.
Of course.
To paint a car. And what steps, because this bubbling seems to be in various spots of the car, so it's impossible, and I'm a lay person, you know, I went to law school.
Yeah.
I didn't go to mechanic school or painting school, but I've lived a long time, and when you have spots like this on anything, either a wall or a vet, you can't spot fix it because this is a bright color. It was done now almost a year and a half ago. And you're not going to be able to match colors because car colors like bright ones fade. So if you just do it in spots, it'll look like a leopard.
Well, not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
There's ways to adjust the paint, the color of the paint.
Well,
you can tint
Mr. Miera, she is not bringing the car to New Mexico when she now lives in Louisiana.
Yes.
Because that would cost her. I know I transport cars of mine when I move around, and that's very expensive. Not quite as expensive as the paint job, but close, which would mean she would have to incur a substantial expense. You said,
I didn't
I'll
acknowledge.
fix
I said I'd take care of it in a good gesture to try to make things work with her. I did not deny her any kind of service or say, go get lost until she started cursing at me.
No.
She didn't tell you she was cursing at me, you know.
Well, Mr. Miera, if what I say you would have to do would be to start over, sand down the car. That's terrific. You're going to give her back her money, $6,500. Judgment for the plaintiff. We're done.
This court is adjourned.
I think when she transported the car, the moisture and the climate that she took it to may have played a factor in.
I totally disagree with what he said because I took it from his house, put it in another van.
And having the car bubble like that, but you know, I'm not sure. There's a lot of things that could happen.
And the moisture with what he's claiming, there's no way.
I tried to rectify the situation and it didn't work out, so.
Time to get it looking good again.
You never got back to me about how much the 1969 Beetles were worth. They're worth anywhere between $12,000 and $35,000 for a nicely kept, maintained vintage car, similar to the one that I saw briefly in the photos.
I'm sorry for not getting back to you.
It's
I
okay.
got caught up.
But I think you made the right call because after the paint job, we saw the damage or the bubbling, and I know that you or I would not be satisfied with that paint job on an asset that was worth that amount of money.
Of course.
So I think the right thing happened.
I'm sorry.
For a truck she never received.
Miss Johnson, this is your brother-in-law. I believe that, is it your husband or is he your ex-husband?
No, it's just my kid's father.
Okay. The father of your children is currently incarcerated?
Yes.
So he's not your brother-in-law, he's just the brother of the father of your children?
Yes.
Okay, you have 2 children?
I have 3.
Is he the uncle of all 3?
Yes.
Okay. There came a time when you were in need of a new vehicle or a different vehicle. Your car was giving you trouble.
Yes.
Mr. McIntosh, according to what I've read, has tried to maintain a relationship with his brother's children.
Yes.
Despite the fact that you no longer have a relationship with him.
Yes.
And according to what I'm putting together, you reached out to him or you were on the phone with him and told him you needed another car.
Yes.
And according to you, he said he had a car, a truck.
Yes.
That he would sell you for $2,700. You buy it.
I don't
think. You know, you're coming to court today. You knew that this was the issue when you came here.
Yeah.
Not yeah, yes.
Dominique Johnson claims her children's uncle, Chris McIntosh, owes for the cost of a truck she never received.
According to you, he said he had a car, a truck.
Yes.
They never brought you a truck.
Never brought me the truck, never returned my money, anything.
Oh.
I even tried
Just
to...
a second.
Okay.
So you sent him the $2,700.
Yes.
What date?
June 21st of this year.
What happened to her $2,700?
Bought the truck there and then dropped it
What
off.
truck did you bring there?
2007 Suburban.
And where did you get that truck from?
I got it from an auction.
Okay, I'd like to see the paperwork.
I don't have the paperwork.
Well, that's unfortunate. Why wouldn't you bring the paperwork? It's only a couple of months ago.
Because the auction is every first Thursday. It's not the same person running the same auction. They don't have the same paperwork for the auction.
Well, if you had paperwork, you would have also have had a title for it.
Yeah, and I left it in the glove compartment box.
What's the name of the auction?
Towing.
Where are they located?
Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Sarah's that you never brought any truck. You say, well, you bought this truck at an auction. The auction is every Thursday?
Every first Thursday of the month.
First Thursday. So on what date did you buy it?
I don't...
Think. You know, you're coming to court today. You knew that this was the issue when you came here.
Yeah.
Not yeah, yes. So what date was it that you bought the truck? That you have no paperwork
Thursday.
for at all?
Thursday.
Which Thursday?
What month was that I bought you the truck? I really don't know. Like, I'm being so serious right now. Like,
Honestly, if I could speak, it was June 21st I sent him the money. June 21st was when initially I was supposed to get.
Did he ever bring you any truck?
No, not at all.
Do you have any phone messages?
I do.
I'd like to see them, please.
And towing. It's a towing and auction house.
Okay, say when they have auctions?
It doesn't list it on their website, but I could try and see.
It's a lot of them, honestly, a lot of messages.
I have those dates of the auction. They list their past auctions. There was one May 5th of this year, June 5th of this year, July 2nd, August 6th, and September 3rd of this year.
June
all
what?
the most recent. June 5th. And I actually have a list of every car that was included in that June 5th auction. So if you give me the make and model, I could see if it was included in that auction on June 5th.
You went in June for the...
Two different trucks that...
Well, that's the one he said he bought.
The only car from 2007 at the June 5th auction was a 2007 Nissan Murano.
Nissan Murano. Wasn't a Nissan Murano. That was the only one that was sold in June 2007.
it was sold in 2007, but I bought a 07 Tahoe Suburban.
I understand that. But you say you bought it in June, and they list on the website everything that they sold in the June auction. Am I understanding that right, Sarah?
Yes.
They list all the cars that they sold in the June auction. And the only car that they sold that was a... Please just put where you start to ask for your money back because you didn't get the truck. That's what I want to see. I want my money back because you didn't bring me the truck.
There was no Chevy Tahoe 2007 at the July 2nd auction.
Either.
And a lot of the vehicles, a select few, are above $1,500, and that's for newer models. Everything else is under $950.
Thank you. There was no such car either in June or July.
No.
Okay. That's so interesting that they have that information on a website. Ms. Johnson, you can't just give me your phone and expect me to go through pages. All I want, you said you had something indicating that you told him you wanted your money back because you didn't get a truck. Okay. So far, there's no evidence that he bought you a truck from the place that he said he bought you a truck.
Yep. Here's the part where I'm asking for the money back. He doesn't have proof that he even bought the truck.
No, there is no proof that he bought the truck.
He never bought the truck. Okay, so starting from here, this is me asking if just a few taps to Cash App me back my money. We can say forget the whole thing because now this isn't sitting well with me. This was supposed to be easy. I don't have my truck or my money. Like, how does that work? And then I offered to just go down there and get it myself. And then he said that there was no place. I said, okay, but how do I get it home with no place? So this whole time he was kind of dragging me on. And then this is the picture of another truck that he sent me.
That's a picture of him?
Yeah, he's posing in front of the truck, the second truck he supposedly had.
Either in June or July. Got that right?
Yes.
Okay, I don't have to waste any more time. You have no paperwork, Mr. McIntosh, that you bought this truck. You have no proof at all that you brought this phantom truck to her house. Why would she be asking for her money back?
Because I bought her a truck and I dropped it off in front of her house, left her the paperwork saying what's wrong with the truck in the truck. She says that she didn't want it, so I said my finder's fee was only like $400, and that's $200 for just a bus ticket to get there. she can sell the truck and get her money back. That's what I told her.
$2,700 judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I hope this don't affect the relationship with my nieces and nephew.
I'm not really here to bad talk to anybody. I just wanted, my money back.
I left it there with the papers and the receipts.
Right is right, wrong is...
It's so meticulous and gives us all the evidence that we need. This website had a very well planned out photos.
Towing company.
Towing and auctioneer house had every single auction, every car that was sold, photos, the username of the person who purchased it, and the price of the vehicle.
I can't imagine a company like that doing that voluntarily. And it has to be by law to be licensed in order to avoid stolen cars being auctioned off. Has to be very smart.
Yeah, good way to track the evidence.
That was impressive.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2116, versus Kelly Jackson.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. you purchased a duplex home, 2 different apartments.
That's correct.
In what month and year did you purchase the home?
November of 2020.
And when you purchased it, one of the duplexes was occupied by the defendants.
That's correct.
It is your claim that they owe you for rent
Yes.
and for property damage.
That's correct.
They are no longer there.
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long were you and your wife living in the duplex before November of 2020?
We moved in June of 2019.
And at the time, do you recall who your landlord was in June of 2019?
Yes.
Between June of 2019, when you first moved in, and November of 2020, when the plaintiff bought the property, was there any work done on that property?
Not at all.
No maintenance?
No maintenance.
Okay. So from the time you moved in, the prior owner did no maintenance on that property, did no painting?
Just the minor stuff before we moved in. They just painted and just had everything looking nice, the floors.
So just a second. So the prior owner painted the premises and did the floors?
Yes, it was carpet and some flooring in the kitchen.
And Mr. did not do any other painting or flooring or any cosmetic work on the duplex when he purchased it in November of 2020.
No.
So whatever was there by the previous owner of the property is still there.
Yes.
I'm just asking you this because your counterclaim is for child endangerment, and the child endangerment is because of lead paint. That's what you write here.
Yes.
He didn't put in the lead paint, right?
Yes, thinking about that.
He didn't paint it. You don't know when it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the prior owner. Yes, you. I have no idea what this says.
That's the piece of paper that he gave me from the hospital.
Well, I don't understand
it. Blood work.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't.
Okay.
We have something from the health department also stating that because my son his lead was found in his system, they got involved.
I understand that. He did not paint the apartment.
No, ma'am.
Just for my own curiosity, when you bought this place, do you remember the purchase of it? And when you purchase a property, usually there's an inspection.
Yes.
And one of the questions usually has to do with lead paint. Do you remember any of that from when you purchased the property?
I didn't receive any notification of lead paint from the inspectors.
Well, usually they sign off that there is no lead paint.
I don't remember seeing because they never mentioned anything about it.
Nothing about lead paint? No. Okay. Did you ever have the home tested, by the way, for lead?
Only when we found out about my son having lead.
Okay. And do you have the test result?
And there was lead found in 2 places, not just the bathtub.
Miss Kelly, the issue is he didn't do any of that painting.
Right.
He bought the place. You had been living there for 1.5 years before he bought the place.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And your son was born within that 1.5 years.
Well, we moved there, he was 6 months.
He was 6 months old, so he lived there for 1.5 years even before he purchased it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We did buy the things to fix the bathroom up. He told us to take them back to fix the tub and everything because we asked him to fix it. So the things we had, like to get the tub.
Including the baby. And how old is the other child?
She's 14.
Okay. Do you have that report?
No. This is just stating where it was at.
The health department?
Yes. I thought that piece of paper that I gave you was that one.
No.
This is just.
This doesn't say.
This is just showing where the lead was found in the house.
How old is this duplex?
It was built in 1906, so almost 115 years or so.
Yeah. And they certainly used lead paint
Possibly,
then.
yeah. I'm not sure about
I'm
it.
not sure.
I don't
But,
understand about it.
Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jackson, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. So now I would like to know, Mr. Uno is suing you for rent. And I'd like to know first, how much rent were you paying?
$750.
And that's what you were paying under the old lease?
Yes.
And were you current on your rent when Mr. Uno took over the property?
Yes.
In November of 2020?
Yes.
So far correct?
That's accurate.
When did you stop paying rent?
December of 2021.
So you paid rent for a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, when I first moved in, yes, I was working 2 jobs.
And were you working from November of 2020 to December of 2021?
Yes, I was. It was.
For whom?
Yes, I was. I was working for TGI Fridays.
And Ms. Kelly, were you working?
No, ma'am, I'm disabled.
And how much were you receiving in pay?
I was only getting...
If you have to think about it, you don't remember.
Yeah, I wasn't getting too much because it was during COVID, and I was working at a restaurant, and I was only allowed to work 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And what happened in December of 2021?
What happened was he already sent us a letter previously saying that he wanted to go up on the rent to a...
Okay.
Yes, to
So you
$1,000.
had no lease anymore, and he wanted to raise the rent.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I believe you. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before.
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you?
Property damage. Envy and Kevin are countersuing for child endangerment and a constructive eviction.
In what month was that?
He sent it to us, I want to say...
Do you remember, Mr. Uno?
It was 90 days before the 1st of December, so that would have been, I think, September 31st or October 31st. Maybe.
That he was raising the rent to what?
To $1,000 a month.
Effective December.
Yes, December 1st.
And what happened in December?
We were, at that time, looking for a new apartment, and at that time it was hard because around that time, a lot of the rent was going up from just being like $800, $900 to like $1,200 to $1,400 for rent for a month there.
Don't speak.
Okay.
And that was, why we stopped paying rent, because we were actually looking for a house, even when he gave us the 90 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, based upon what you just told me, so stop shaking your head, based upon what you told me, your landlord gave you 90 days notice that if you wished to stay on, he was raising your rent to $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And you started to look around for a new place.
Yes.
And the new places were very expensive.
Yes.
And you didn't find a place.
No.
So you decided to stay in this place.
No.
So what did you do?
We...
So if you didn't find a place
we decided,
in December...
we was trying to stay there until we found a place.
I assume they paid rent in September.
Yes.
Oh, yes, yes.
In October?
Yes.
Yes.
They paid rent in October.
Yes.
Good. And November?
November was the last month that they paid.
So they paid in November?
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent in December of 2021?
Yes.
No. You can 21. Tell me why.
We didn't want to live there ourselves anymore either, but it was just a lot of things going on at the house. Like after my father passed away, and he first gave us the first eviction notice, because he gave us more than one.
Just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're skipping over. Okay. He didn't give you an eviction notice, I assume, until you stopped paying rent.
No, before December, he gave us like 3 of them, I think. I want to say 3.
Really?
Yes.
Why were you trying to evict them before?
They had torn up the carpet upstairs. It was a moratorium for evictions, but there was a stipulation that emergency evictions for nuisance tenants could be granted before then.
Is there any reason why you took up the carpets?
Yes, the same thing. Before he took over, everything was in the house before that, and we complained to the previous owner that the carpet was already dirty. They said that they were going to come and shampoo it, but never did. Like, we would walk and our socks would be black, our feet would be black, so we wanted to take the carpet up. It was dirty to us. And I myself actually told him about it. I went downstairs to his apartment because he lived downstairs from us. Talked to him about it. He came upstairs, and I showed him a section of the carpet that wasn't even connected to the floor. You can lift up the whole carpet and like across a whole section of the wall. And then when I did that, he seen that the hardwood looked kind of decent. And then instead of putting new carpet on, he wanted the hardwood to get sanded down and just get stained and and lacquered over.
So you took the carpet off?
Yes.
I believe you. Sounds right, Mr. Okay. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Well, a number of things that he said. I didn't authorize him. We spoke. I asked him in the first meeting if there was anything that they wanted to have spruced up or anything as a good gesture, and they took it upon themselves to take up the carpet without my permission.
Okay.
It was more about their conduct, that they were being very disturbing behavior and just being off the wall. So I wanted them out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I know, but only one of them qualified under the eviction moratorium.
Yes, for emergency of dismantling the
Only
place.
one, and that would have been the carpet. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm back to you, sir. I haven't figured out yet. You stopped paying rent in December, and you moved out in what month?
We didn't move out until June.
June. So January, February, March, April, and May. Let's say 5 months' rent that you didn't pay, correct?
Yes.
Why?
Can I speak, Your Honor?
No, him. Tell me why you didn't pay the 5 months' rent, Mr. Jackson.
We just figured that, we didn't figure. We didn't want to pay him $1,000 because to us.
Okay, so let's say you didn't want to pay him $1,000, even though you just told me finding another place would be more expensive, right? You said $1,200, $1,400, but you didn't give him $750. You gave him $0 for those 5 months. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Jackson. Does your wife receive disability payments because of her disability?
Yes.
Yes. How much a month?
That I don't know.
How much a month do you receive, Ms. Kelly?
$1,000.
$1,000. And did you continue to receive that $1,000 every month from December until June?
Yes, ma'am.
You see, certain things remain constant. Your disability payments remain constant.
Right.
If you live in an apartment and you have the same sort of income, then you pay rent going to stay in his premises. But you paid nothing, Mr. Jackson, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, the furnace was busted.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Miss Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What? You paid nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Where did you move in June?
Moved in the same area, like probably 10 minutes away from that particular street.
Is it a private house or an apartment?
It's a house. Well, it's a duplex as well.
Duplex. So the same sort of setup. And how much rent are you paying?
Pay $950.
So almost as much as he wanted in his rent. But are you more comfortable in that unit?
Yes.
Okay.
My wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? He just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs to introduce us.
Well, I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're...
Isaac Uno claims his tenants, Envy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin claim Isaac forced them to leave.
Now, you saved over 5 months, let's say, minimally $750.
$37.50.
$37.50. Now, Mr. Uno, the only question that I have to ask you is, Mr. Jackson and Miss Kelly say that they filled out some sort of forms for rent relief during COVID, and you signed it. And they say you received money from the state for any unpaid rent. Did you receive any money from the state for rent that they didn't pay?
No, I approached them with an application, but the program that funds the landlord relief for the moratorium was only open for 1 month, and I came and went, and I missed it, and I never got it. So I did have them fill out something. It was just a hardship thing, but they didn't give me the money for it. I never received anything.
So you didn't receive any money. So far, I don't care what it is, that's what you didn't pay. And you can't save up your money and not pay your landlord. That's his business. Just like you work for Fridays and you get your pay when you're supposed to, that's his business. He bought a house. He was counting on the income from that house to pay some of his expenses, and you didn't pay it. Well, there's no question you have to pay it. Now you have a counterclaim. I've already gotten rid of child endangerment. This is 150 years old. Constructive eviction. So I'd like you to tell me your allegations of constructive eviction.
Is that like from him not doing anything to the apartment while we lived there?
I assume. You say you were
yes.
constructively evicted.
Yes, he.
But you didn't leave.
Yes, he has a couple of text messages in here where he says that he actually came up to the apartment to check things. He brought up when he first got there in November, we didn't have a working toilet until.
Just a second.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
So before he bought it, is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not before. I'm sorry. When he got the apartment in November, the previous owners, we were trying to contact to see who we pay for rent.
Just a second.
Okay, yeah.
He bought the duplex in November of 2020.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me, Mr. Jackson, that certain things weren't working prior to his purchasing the property?
No, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. After he purchased it, we didn't even know he purchased it because he was living downstairs, and my wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? And he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even...
Gordon, you didn't pay him. So far you're ahead $750. Okay, keep going.
To go back to the November, so during November, our toilet got stopped up, like right before Thanksgiving.
So shortly after he purchased it, he hadn't been up in the apartment, right?
No.
Just you, your wife, your teenage daughter, and the baby.
Yeah, and the kids.
Okay. And the toilet got stopped up, and
he brought in a plumber, and then the guy found out that my son put a little toy in there, and he actually got the toy out.
So the toilet was broken by your son. Okay. So now the plumber said, here's the toy. Kid threw a toy down the toilet. Not an unusual and
then the very next month in December, my son didn't put anything down there. The toilet started acting up again. It wouldn't flush for like all the way up until the next year. And it never got fixed. But it was from...
Well, you had to have, sir, you lived there with 3 adults. So there had to be a functioning toilet in the house.
It wasn't functioning.
So where did you go to use a functioning restroom?
Her mom lived up the street from us, so sometimes we lived up the street, or sometimes we would just still use the toilet.
Okay. You owe him $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I had to collect monetary judgment to the courts.
Him being the landlord, he left us like living in crappy conditions.
It was a unbearable situation that I was going through with the noise and the disturbances.
Yeah, he never came up there at all to fix anything.
And the destruction of the property.
He just started making up so many rules, to make it uncomfortable for us to live there.
Oh, it was, it's pretty quiet now.
That man is crazy. I'm glad it's over with.
You know what I think is interesting, Sarah, with these cases, we've had a lot of them. The forgiveness that the government wanted to show to people came from a good place, as did some of the monies that were sent out by the government to sort of help people over a difficult time during the height of COVID. But then there are other people who suffer as a result of that, like a landlord who buys a property, a duplex property. Part of it is for income so that they can pay off mortgage, taxes, lawn service, whatever you have to pay on a house. And then the defendants, who really had no changed circumstances that they indicated to me. He was working, she was getting whatever she gets from disability, which is not insubstantial. I don't know if they get any other assistance for any of their other children, but certainly they moved into a place that's more expensive now, that's not far away. They just decided not to pay rent. And I don't think that that is the spirit of what either the federal government or the states who enacted it meant to happen, because the plaintiff owner of this property has rights too. Yeah. You've taken away a right of his.
I agree to an extent, but I also think that that's more a problem on the government's implementation of the moratorium in the first place. That's what ended up hurting the landlord. These people were simply taking advantage of a legal loophole that was created for them. He was in the restaurant business, which, as we know, was one of the toughest hit by COVID.
Right.
She was on a fixed income that wouldn't be enough to cover, well, barely enough to cover the rent on its own. And then they have to support themselves, feed themselves. They have 2 children. So I'm sympathetic towards the take.
Paid loans.
Ms. Weiss, the defendant was a boyfriend of yours for a period of time.
Correct.
And you allege a couple of loans. One from a year and a half ago, the balance of a $200 loan, he paid you back $100.
Yes.
Quite frankly, I'm not interested in what happened a year and a half ago. What you say is, I need time to catch up.
It was a verbal conversation.
Well, what's in writing is you saying to her, I can make payments to you. But the thing that you don't have in writing is where she gave the loan. Is that right?
She gave him during their relationship.
Okay, in March of this year, you allege that you gave him money. He was still your boyfriend in March of this year, is that right?
Yes.
Is that correct?
That is correct.
And in March of this year, he had gotten a car. What kind of car did you get?
It was a Buick Regal.
What year?
You
didn't have money for parts.
I did for the first round of parts.
But you didn't for the second?
After the first ones failed, I did not.
And how much did you need for parts?
That I don't remember.
Who bought them?
Miss Weiss did.
Did she buy them on a credit card?
I believe so, yes.
And you have no idea what you paid for those parts?
I don't remember.
But that would be in March of 2022.
It would have been in April.
Did you pay for the parts by credit card?
Yes, I paid between Cash App transactions that were transferred to Mr. Leip through Cash App, which I have present here.
I'd like to see proof of them. What do they total?
They total.
She paid for these parts.
There was a discussion of how I was going to pay her back.
And what did you tell her?
I did agree at that time.
And then what happened?
There were then later discussions as we were still in a relationship and I was in financial troubles that she told me not to worry about it.
This $920 was a loan in April of 2022. That's what you...
I got back together, which would have been in May. I was financially struggling.
Well, you weren't living together at the time?
No, she would periodically come over and
but you weren't living together at the time. So how would she find out that you were in financial trouble?
I mean, we were at that state in our relationship where she knew basically my financials all the time.
When did the two of you break up?
I believe that was in June.
So shortly after you say she forgave the loan.
That is correct.
Did you ever forgive this $920 loan?
No, I did not. Brennan Black was there the day that I had confronted Cody at a car meet.
He says that you had a conversation before that, sometime in May, where you knew he was in financial difficulty. Did you ever have that conversation with him?
No, that is incorrect. I do have statements here to prove it as well.
I'd like to see them. Okay. That's what you wrote.
Correct. He had been giving me money periodically throughout the beginning of the car parts.
Okay, but it says, so that puts you at $670, okay.
Yes, there's more transactions on the Cash Apps as well.
Oh, after that?
Yes, correct. Sorry.
No, sir. What you say is I need time to catch up. There's no forgiving here unless you have some...
It was a verbal conversation.
Well, what's in writing...
Right.
What's in writing is you saying to her, I need some time to catch up. I can make payments to you. All of that is in writing. But the thing that you don't have in writing is where she gave the loan. Is that right? Yeah. $900.
Me money and he got what he deserved.
Yes, she lent me the money, but at the same time, she was helping me out in a relationship, and she knew I was struggling.
He said he was going to pay me back and never followed through even after that.
There were discussions about her telling me not to worry about it.
Not to trust so much.
I'm never going to do it again.
Oh, that's going to be
जी आज की वीडियो में हमने सीखना है कि शक्ल को किस तरह चेंज करते हैं, मतलब सैड शक्ल बनानी हो या हंसने वाली या गुस्से वाली तो किस तरह बनानी है। तो मेन्यू पे जाना है, मेन्यू पे जाने के बाद चारा एडिट पे जाना है। तो जहाँ पे एटम है, पोज मोड है, एटम भी आपने चेक कर लिया, पोज मोड भी चेक कर लिया, उसके साथ चारा एडिट का ऑप्शन है। यहाँ पे हमने जो ऑप्शन है वो चेक करनी है। सबसे पहले तो है हेयर कलर। यहाँ पे आप हेयर के कलर कर सकते हो। अगर आपने गेम प्ले की हुई है तो आपने कलर चेंज करना चाहते हो किसी चीज़ का तो यहाँ पे आपको चारा एडिट पे आना पड़ेगा। उसके बाद है आई कलर भी आप चेंज कर सकते हो। यहाँ पे किसी भी तरह का कलर करना हो यहाँ से चेंज हो जाते हैं। उसके बाद ये चेक करने के बाद क्लॉथ कलर है, क्लॉथ कलर 1 है 2 है। यहाँ पे क्लॉथ कलर मतलब मैचिंग वाला जो कलर करने हो यहाँ पे 2 कलर आपको दिए जाते हैं। तो क्लॉथ कलर 1 क्लॉथ कलर 2 पे आप कलर भी चेंज कर सकते हो। उस कलर चेंज करने के बाद नीचे जो ऑप्शन दिए गए हैं मतलब फ़नी शक्ल बनानी हो या गुस्से वाली या सैड वाली, तो यहाँ पे ऑप्शन आपको दिए गए हैं। ज़्यादा आँख खुली करवानी हो, कुछ बंद करवानी हो, या बिल्कुल आँख बंद करवानी हो, तो फिर आपको रीसेट का भी ऑप्शन दिया गया, मतलब पोज ख़त्म करना हो तो यहाँ पे रीसेट भी आप कर सकते हो। ये सारी चीज़ें आपने चेक करनी है कि शक्ल इसकी किस तरह बनती है, तो एक एक करके सारी चेक करनी है। उसके बाद गुस्से वाली शक्ल किस तरह बनती है, सैड शक्ल किस तरह बनती है। जो रेड लिप्स नज़र आ रहे हैं यहाँ पे आप क्लिक करोगे तो इसका मुंह खुल जाएगा। तो इसी तरह मुंह खुलवाना हो, बंद करवाना हो, ये सारे ऑप्शन आपको दिए गए यहाँ पे। तो फिर रीसेट का ऑप्शन भी है, अगर सही ना बने हो रीसेट भी कर सकते हैं। लिप्स पे क्लिक करने के बाद जो नीचे, फिर उसके नीचे जो ऑप्शन दिया गया यहाँ पे हंसने वाली शक्ल बनती है। तो जहाँ पे 50% लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पे थोड़ा परेशानी वाली शक्ल बनती है। 50% के साथ जो ऑप्शन है यहाँ पे बिल्कुल ज़्यादा परेशान होने वाली शक्ल बनती है। तो उसके साथ टीयर्स का भी ऑप्शन है, मतलब आंसू वगैरह लगाने हो तो टांग जो जहाँ पे टांग वाला ऑप्शन है यहाँ पे ज़ुबान बाहर निकलती है, तो फिर रीसेट का ऑप्शन भी है इस चीज़ को ख़त्म करने के लिए। तो उसके बाद नीचे आपको ऑप्शन दिया गया है इनविजिबल का, इनविजिबल करैक्टर। यहाँ पे करैक्टर गायब हो जाता है, रीसेट करोगे तो फिर वापस आ जाएगा, इनविजिबल पे गायब हो जाता है। तो उसके बाद यहाँ पे करैक्टर का ऑप्शन है, करैक्टर पे जो यहाँ पे स्केल लिखा हुआ है, तो करैक्टर को छोटा बड़ा कर सकते हो। मैंने इस पे करैक्टर छोटा होगा, प्लस पे बड़ा होगा। उसके बाद एक और चीज़ है, यहाँ पे है हेड स्केल। करैक्टर के नीचे हेड स्केल है, यहाँ पे सर का साइज़ बड़ा छोटा होता है, मैनस पे सर का साइज़ छोटा होता है, प्लस पे बड़ा होता है। तो ये भी आपने देख लो। उसके बाद मटेरियल पे जहाँ पे कलर चेंज होते हैं, मतलब हर किस्म की जो शक्ल बनानी हो, कलर बनाना हो, तो यहाँ पे भी बनते हैं। उसके बाद कलर हैं, जहाँ पे आप कलर भी चेंज कर सकते हो करैक्टर के, मतलब ये सारा करैक्टर ही जो है ना, लड़की या लड़का, यहाँ पे टोटल का टोटल कलर हो जाएगा। तो इसी तरह हॉरर वाले भी यहाँ पे बनते हैं वीडियो। ये चीज़ें आपने आज गौर से देखनी है और प्रैक्टिस करनी है इस चीज़ की।